We have these incredible passages where the Lord is guiding us, inviting us. This first reading is from the fourth song of the suffering servant. It's proclaimed in two very solemn days. It's Palm Sunday and Good Friday. And we have the longer version on those days, the commemoration of the Passion, if you will. The suffering of Christ, what a beautiful mystery, something that we could enter into. Especially in our society today, as we become professionals at avoiding suffering, anything that hurts, we have to find the way out immediately. And our society is finding more and more ways, sometimes ways that leave us more confused, because we forget that Jesus wants to meet us at the cross in our suffering. So whatever challenges you may have had this past week, loneliness, perhaps somebody made fun of you as you were passing the hallway in school. Maybe you felt like you were not able to reach your teenager. Whatever is your suffering, as we go through this celebration, bring it to the altar and ask Jesus to meet you there. Whatever are your concerns. As we go through this beautiful gospel, the sons of Zebedee, James and John, two of those that were always close to Jesus. There was the disciples, the apostles, and then the inner circle. Peter, James, and John. Those that were with him at the Transfiguration, those that were with him when he went to pray in Gethsemane, right before he was arrested. Those that were closest to him. And there they are saying, I want to sit at your right and at your left. Jesus is speaking with them about his suffering that is up and coming. And what are they worried about? A position of respect, a hierarchy. And what does this mean for us? It's great hope. Because we all know that at one point or another we have approached Jesus with confused motives. Perhaps we've gone to church because, I'm going to see my friends. We have not gone to church to see him. Perhaps we have gone because of a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And now he's inviting us to go deeper. And so the apostles who later on became saints and were able to shed their lives for the gospel, at times struggled not only to understand Jesus, but also that their intentions would be purified, then there's great hope for you and I. Because we know and we recognize that we are not perfect, that we're certainly a people that is being molded in the image and likeness of God every day. And so we could approach him knowing that he will purify everything and bring us closer to him so that we could be holy as he is holy. There is a universal call to that holiness. Blessed John Paul II reminded the world constantly of it. And I would invite you to stop and think, do you truly believe it? Do you believe that you are truly called to be holy? And that God himself, the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, have spared no expense, have given the whole kingdom. And not only that, but Jesus himself has given his body and his blood so that you would be holy. You see, my brothers and sisters, this is not simply an invitation from the Trinity. The Trinity is loving us, guiding us, strengthening us so that we could respond to this. And so often we have fallen into the lie. And the lie is gradual. It says, and it's probably happening in your heart right now, Father doesn't really know your situation. It's okay, you could remain where you are. I may not, but Jesus does. And he's the one who has died for us. Or, it's okay, you'll get to it later. Everybody's doing it. You're just in high school, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out when you're in college. There's so many different lies that we not only have bought into, but we actually began to build our lives there. And it's time, my brothers and sisters, to renounce them. It's time to say no to them and realize that the Trinity is more committed to your holiness, to my holiness, than ourselves. That's why he came and died for us. Because he knew that we could do it. Because he knew that it's possible. That in this day and age, yes, with internet, yes, with so many different advances, with so many different challenges, that holiness is possible today, right here and now, in this very time and space. How incredible that he is so committed to your holiness, to my holiness, more than you and I. In that invitation, we have different branches. The branch of marriage, and we certainly need strong, holy matrimonies. We have religious life, which are sisters, brothers, friars, monks. We have single life, and we have priesthood. To speak a little bit on each as the Lord leads. And married life, parents, grandparents. What would you do if your son or daughter came home tonight and told you, Mom, Dad, I want to be a priest. I think I'm going to be a nun. Would you have a heart attack? Would you want to speak to Father Stephen Parks and say, quit talking to my child? Stop giving him those ideas. I want him to be a lawyer. I want him to be a doctor. It's great to have these dialogues. Not long ago, I was having this dialogue with a group of parents. We started a couple of teenage discernment groups, and they're wonderful. So I gathered the teens and the parents, and one of them said, Father, I love the church. I love everything. I want grandchildren. I want my son to be happy. And she started to cry. It was very beautiful, very vulnerable. And all I could do was hold her in love. I wanted to go and hold her hand and wipe her tears. And so I asked her to imagine back 40, 50 years ago, a young man having that same conversation with his mom or his dad, or perhaps both. And now that, in their particular case, it was the name of their pastor, here it would be perhaps a Patrick Caverly, 50 or 60 years ago, a Stephen Parks. This is before they're priests. This is when they were teenagers, when they were in college, having that conversation with their parents. And you, as the beneficiaries of that spiritual patrimony, what do you want to say to that mom, to that dad, as they're worried about their sons, their daughters going away? Don't you want to say to them, don't worry, we're going to feed them. We will deliver food to the rectory if they want. We will take great care of them. We're so grateful for what you're doing, for making the transition from not only just physical, spiritual life, but to the spiritual generativity that comes. And as she was able to hear this, she herself, her heart became filled with gratitude for the sacrifice that the parent of her pastor had made. And she said, I'm seeing things in a new light, Father. The other things, that parents begin to say when they get nervous is, Father, you don't really want my son. He doesn't study. He doesn't pick up his room. And then they say, I think he bathes every 2 days. And to which I say, then your son is normal. The other thing that people say is, he doesn't even study. And the Lord leads through everything. Don't be afraid. How would that conversation be at home? It would be wonderful. Because I know that regardless of how you're feeling right now, you know that your children belong to God, that they are gifts, and that part of being a good steward, it's not only about our time, talent, and treasure, it's also about our health, it's also about our family. And that my mother, my health, my next heartbeat and breath belong to Him. And how glorious it is for Him to be able to move about freely in His will through my life, and to be completely free to just follow Him wherever He leads. It's an incredible life. Right now in the last spring in the teenage discernment group, one of them was the homecoming king and the prom king. Then he told this high school that he was discerning priesthood. And he went from being popular to being respected, because they realized that this is a young man with conviction that was able to say to a public high school, I'm going to follow God wherever He leads. Now, I don't make commission off of people signing up for the seminary. Although last year we had such a great year that I think I'm going to renegotiate my contract with Bishop Noonan. So my goal when I meet with someone is not to get everybody to sign as fast as possible. It is to discern, where is God leading this person? In the past 18 months, we've had ladies go to the Daughters of St. Paul, Benedictines, Carmelites. We've had the Mother Angelica sisters. So it's been an incredible journey, and I look forward to journeying with the Pierced Heart sisters so that we can multiply the flock here. And it'll be wonderful. Don't be afraid. See, oftentimes when we hear of a vocation or something like this, even marriage, we hear it in our hearts. We know it's something good, but we don't want our son to do it. We want our nephew to do it, because we want it to be in the family, but not that close. What am I going to do if there's a priest living in that room? You should ask my mom. Sometimes she doesn't know. And that's fine. The Lord leads us. When I was 14, I knew I was called to the priesthood. When I was 19, I had done all my wrestling with Him. Because when I was 14, I said to Him, you called the wrong guy. Call the guy next to me. He looks like he could fall for it. I think you have the wrong number. Every excuse in the book. So by 19, I was ready to surrender. And so at the Thanksgiving meal with my mom, she's passing, I think, the salad or something. And I say to her, Mom, remember when I said I was going to become a priest? And I was hoping that the whole thing would just continue, like I could just slip it in there and keep going. But she stopped. And she said, go ahead. And I said, I think I'm going to do it. And she was very wise. She said, if that's what you feel called to do, then take your time and do it. She didn't hold me back, and she also didn't push me in. My family took bets when I went to seminary that I would not last more than 6 months in seminary. If that gives you some clue. I know that some of you are struggling to get the teenagers just to come to Mass. That you're sitting there and you're watching the need, saying, oh man, he's bored again. He's not paying attention. Don't be afraid. If the Lord can take someone like St. Paul, who was persecuting the church, and help them to surrender to the point that eventually he was not only willing to give his life, but wrote about 1/3 of the New Testament, He can take any and all teenagers, any and all young adults, and surrender to Him. In the young adults right now, we have 2 lawyers, 1 engineer, architect. There's been inquiries from one who's a chiropractor, social worker, and there's the vice president of a bank who just sold. Several of them have just sold their lakefront properties, 4,000 or 5,000 square foot homes, several acres, to go and get in line to get into a room 11 by 11 and to share a bathroom with 30 to 40 other guys. This is not logical in our world. This isn't the way they thought it would be. They are successful. They have seen everything that the world could offer. And yet their heart is still yearning to seek, to follow, to serve, to speak to people about the things that will totally heal their soul, to speak to those who are lost, to bring them back home to God, to bring hope to the circumstances that are hopeless. They have conquered the world and been very successful at it. And yet, now they are ready to go that next step. And so, it is not only popular kids in high school who are doing it. It is people who are very well-rounded, who are very successful in their career, who are following the Lord to the next step because they are hearing, they are listening. And so, I know that as I say this, part of you may feel that it's for somebody else, but think about it. Young men and women and those dormant vocations that you've been putting it away for a couple of years, now is the time to listen to God. Now is the time to say yes to the one who loves you, the one whom you have met in the core of your being, in your conscience, where you've had the experience of encountering love himself. Allow him to speak to you, to guide you, to calm every fear, to guide you through every dark moment, knowing that he will lead you home. I'm also very grateful to you as a parish community because you've always been an essential part in our diocese. Right now we have 34 young men committed to the priesthood for our diocese, and that's something that is the highest number we've ever had. It's thanks to your prayers, thanks to your greater and greater openness to consider priesthood or religious life within your families. At the same time, you know what it's like to sign a check for a tuition. And to sign a check for 34 tuitions is serious. So I want to thank you because I never need to worry about money when it comes to sitting down with someone who is discerning. My goal is to help this person find where is God leading them. And that gives me so much freedom because it's a responsibility that I not only carry on myself in terms of moral, spiritual, and economic, but we carry it together. And so thank you for your generosity. Thank you for it. I know that over the summer you had Adam Marchese. You've also had Matthew Hawkins. If you like what you see, continue to contribute. If you don't like what you see, give double so that we could fix it. Jesus will guide us and bring us closer to him. Don't be afraid. God is leading the church. There is such a beautiful rising generation right now. People think that it's something that we're doing in the vocation office. And I must admit, it's kind of one of those, you want to take credit, but at the same time, in all fairness, it's God. It's God who is bringing a young man who is 17, leaving behind everything, and he wants to pray the Liturgy of the Hours, and he's praying the prayer of the church 5 times a day. He wants more holy hours. He's seeking how to follow God. Young ladies that are hearing the call of God and have fallen so in love with him that they are ready to follow him. What can you do as parents, as a faith community? Create those spaces where people can fall in love with God. Think of the moment when you fell in love with your spouse, when you were perhaps driving and you saw a beautiful sunset, when you were totally enamored by beauty, when you were enraptured by something so majestic, so glorious, that you knew that there was someone bigger, that you were in the hands of God guiding you to that moment. Allow those moments not only to happen, but create space for them through prayer, through relaxation, so that our young people can hear from God. People don't fall in love when they're stressed. They fall in love when they relax, when they're listening to God. Perhaps you met your spouse, and maybe it was a tough day, but at some point something happened in the conversation where your heart was ready to receive the mystery of the other person. And so here, that people could receive the mystery of God into their heart, and that they could also fall into communion in love with God. Don't be afraid. There is such a wonderful thing happening. The seminaries are at the fullest they've been in probably 30 years. We have in the state of Florida right now close to 180 seminarians. It's tough to walk through the hallway with that many seminarians there, but it's good. I wear a helmet. I don't get hurt. And the Lord is leading. So ask the Lord. Consecrate your family. No one is more committed to your happiness or to your child's happiness than God. Trust him. And in those areas where it feels like it's too much, I don't get it, etc., ask Him to give you His love. Young men and women, listen to Him. The more you listen to Him, you will be able to experience heaven right here on earth, right here and now.